Hey guys, it's DJ EJ, and we are back again for another Girls Night In virtual class. Right now, we are downtown Charleston at Butch Hiles Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Standing beside me is the man himself, Butch Hiles. How you doing today, sir?
Doing good. Excited to show you guys some stuff today.
Great, sounds good. So before we get into our demonstration today, we want to remind you, make sure you click on the donate button right now for your chance to win our prize, which is a 6 months cardio kickboxing class right here downtown at Butch Hiles Jiu-Jitsu. The more times you donate, the more chances you have to win. So Butch, what are you going to be demonstrating for us today?
We've got a bunch of moves planned, some ways to get out of chokes, ways people grab you, kind of a little bit of everything, all the bad stuff that could happen. So I look forward to showing everybody some stuff.
We look forward to see it. Sounds good.
All right, guys, so we're going to take you through some self-defense here. We've got an ideal of self-defense. There's a lot of different things you can see. There's things that you see in the movies where people hit each other and they fall down, and there's some things that I just don't think are real. Some things that I think they look cool, but they might not necessarily work. So what we're gonna do is things that should work for everybody, but the general philosophy is not to outstrike your opponent, meaning that punches and kicking, because the person attacking you is crazy, right? If they weren't crazy, they wouldn't be attacking you. So we're looking to use those things to get away, right? The other philosophy we have in our self-defense is, I might be big, but this is for a little person to get away from a big person. It's usually the first most common question I get, especially when I'm teaching, is how do I know it's gonna work against somebody like you? Well, the two philosophies that we take in our self-defense, we're doing Gracie self-defense. It was invented by a guy that weighed 120 pounds named Elio Gracie. So it's tried and true method. So everything we're gonna do is get away first, use those strikes to get away, and survive to live another day. So everything we bring you through today is going to have that philosophy in mind, and hopefully we'll find some things that are valuable for you. But one thing I always want to preface is this really has to be muscle memory. I need you guys to look at these moves, practice these moves with your friends, keep it in mind, because if somebody attacks you and you have to think, what do I do now? It's probably too late. Keep this in the forefront, practice it, muscle memory, and hopefully you'll do some great things. So let's bring in Nikki Cruz first. There she is. She's going to be the main demonstrator, meaning she's going to be the victim. This is also new to her today. She's not done it, so there may be some hiccups along the way, but that's perfect because this is new to everybody. And then also, I'm going to bring in the attacker, Jonathan Marshall. He's an awfully mean guy. That means a lot of business, so this should work out perfectly. Even though I said striking's not the key, you do need to do that to get away, right? If somebody's holding you and you can't get away, a lot of times a quick strike, quick elbow, quick knee is gonna get that person let go, and that's gonna give you the opportunity to get away. So that seems easier said than done. Everybody thinks I already know how to do that, but the reason I wanna demonstrate this is a lot of us are professional fighters. We come to this gym and that's what we do. We do boxing, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, MMA. We punch each other all day, and guess what happens? We hit each other back. So realistically, you're just not gonna hit somebody like the movies and that's gonna be the end. It's more of a means to get away. So we're gonna go over that real quick, and I want Nikki to demonstrate an elbow and a knee, because it's gonna be the philosophy of getting away. So let me get this pad here and we'll get started here. So what I'll have them do is kind of work through the moves, and I'll talk here. Let me move here a little bit. So, all right, so the first technique we're gonna do is a knee. So why this is important, your knee's super hard. It's a close-up attack, because most of these things, when I grab somebody, we're gonna be this far. So realistically, throwing a punch from here, it's harder than people think. So elbows and knees, because it's a short, close-range distance. But let's start with the knee first. Nikki's gonna grab behind the head, any part of the body, pull him down as she explodes up as hard as she can. Do a couple more. Boom. Good. Perfect. One more. Good. And you see how hard that is. So what she's doing here is pulling down the head, bringing the target to her, and exploding up, almost getting up on her tiptoe, but she doesn't have to, and bringing that knee up really hard, right? The next strike that we're gonna use mainly is an elbow. Again, let's get real close here. If they're super close, meaning right here, that's where attacker's gonna get you. Throwing punches is just not realistic all the time, right? We're right in too close. Maybe he's already grabbed her. So she's gonna be looking at elbow. So please demonstrate an elbow for us, Nikki. Yes, yes. So she's throwing what we call a Muay Thai elbow. Step into it this time with your left foot. Step in when you throw it. Yes, perfect. So you notice there's a little arc to it too, which is very important, because sometimes, let me stand this way, have you elbow. So a person could be like this, have their hands up, and she can elbow straight down the middle. Go ahead and do that. Good, as opposed to across. So These are the two main strikes that we're gonna use, and we're gonna demonstrate some positions that she'll eventually get into those positions. Okay, all right, so going with that general philosophy of trying to get away with a couple strikes. This is a framing technique, so Nikki show. Yep, okay. So and I wanna walk through this, so let's keep her ear there. So if you notice she has an overhook on this side, that just means her arm is over the other person's arm. This is important because now your attacker cannot strike you with that arm. This arm here that she has up is a framing technique, and why that's important is because she's keeping the attacker away from her. So if he tries to get her, he can't. Also, her head is hidden on the other side, so even if he is throwing some strikes, they're not gonna do too much compared to what she can do, because now we'll go into the knees that she could throw, boom, and that's all wide open, and an elbow when she decides to go away, okay? So this here concept and theme is gonna kind of pop up a lot of times in a lot of moves that we do. So it's real important to kind of have this down. Now, one final thing, she can have an overhook or an underhook. She just needs to control that arm, so show an underhook real quick. Okay, and so how she gets there is not super important. It'll make sense when we do the moves, but sometimes an overhook versus underhook just depends on how tall you are, okay? So let's jump into a technique that uses this right away, which we're gonna say most attackers are not trained fighters, they're just crazy people, which means they're gonna do all the crazy things normally do, and that's why these elbows and knees work. But speaking of that, the first move that I really wanna go through is something could potentially happen in Charleston, it's very common. Nikki could just be walking down the street and somebody can come up and grab her back of the hair, which is an awful position to be in, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so normally I'm sure you guys all seen those fights on the internet, maybe you haven't, where people are grabbing each other's hair and they cannot get out and they just sit there and hit each other the whole time. Here's a move to get out of that. So Nikki, demonstrate, boom. Perfect. So let's walk through this move now. Here's the move, I like to show it first and let's kind of calmly go through it. When her hair gets grabbed right here, she needs to come and look towards her attacker. This is kind of the hardest part because she needs to overhook the arm just like we just talked. And now she's framing immediately. So even though the attacker still has her hair, he cannot strike. There's nothing he can do other than hold her hair. So now she's gonna release a bunch of knees until he lets go. Boom, boom, and then one final strike to make sure that all is good and that she can get away, right? Again, the main thing is to get away. If she just grabs the back of her hair, what natural instinct is to turn and look, she's never gonna get out. That's like the videos that I'm telling you on the internet that everybody sees. They never get out. They essentially just grab each other's hair, right? So the point of when an attacker gets you is to reset their frame of mind. John is thinking here, because he's an awful person, here's this lady that's not paying attention, I'm gonna get her, right? So she doesn't know, and as soon as that happens, his mind goes from, go ahead, get her, to, ow, now I'm getting kneed, now I'm getting elbowed. And that's the point, right? All of a sudden he had no time. And that's another important thing, we were talking about getting away. Most people are not looking for a fight, they're looking for an easy victim, right? So he identified her as an easy victim, maybe she was on her phone, she was walking down the street, he attacked her, he was not ready for a fight. That is what essentially is gonna get her away, because now she's beating the crap out of him, and he's like, I did not prepare for that, so we're out. The next technique that I want to go over is how to get out of somebody grabs you by the wrist, either by one hand or two. This is super important for a couple reasons. One, I think it's really important for kids, because this is how mostly the kids are getting grabbed by the arm, getting led to a vehicle. But also, it's a popular time, or it's in the news a lot, for sex trafficking. All those things are the same. Sometimes people are looking for an easy target. They've pulled up a car, they're gonna grab you and try to get you in a car right away, and that's the last thing you want to happen. So it's actually kind of easy to get out of this, but we'll kind of set it up how we did last time, that Nikki's just hanging out at the park, having a good time, and here comes evil John. Go ahead and grab her. So before you get out, actually go ahead and get out and then let's talk about it. Let's talk about it after. There you go, good, okay. So first of all, when she gets grabbed, all right, it's also, we're not gonna just stay there, but it's typically John's gonna grab her and start pulling her off, right? So she wants to drop in base or make herself heavy, which just means she gets low, puts her center of gravity heavy. That way she's just not getting dragged. The next thing she's gonna look for is where his thumb at. That's the weakest part, because if she pulls, it's gonna be weakest here. If she tries to go against the fingers, it's not gonna work. So she finds this and uses her whole body, and she's gonna this way, yes, perfect, good. All right, now let's throw a little curveball in there. What if John really means business? He's like, I'm definitely getting this girl to my car. So now, yes, he pulled on two hands, okay. So you notice there is a slight difference here. Why is there a difference? Now if we look at his thumbs, one's going this way, one's going that way. So she can't just wiggle her arm back and forth. So there's a little trick we use. She makes a fist, reaches down in her fist and grabs and pulls. Perfect. So again, this is all she needed to do to get away. Somebody is trying to grab your kid, somebody they think they can get in a car, so you immediately are gone, and that's enough time to get away and not be abducted or attacked. Very simple move.
Should I do it again?
All right, so coming off what we just did, which was short grabs, collar grabs, however you want to put it, they're very similar to getting choked, right? So it's just obviously going up to the neck. And then clearly that means now we're in a situation where somebody actually has attacked you and done something and caused you physical harm. So the worst one, I think, would be if John, the evil attacker, grabbed her by the throat, two-handed, okay? So one thing that we talked about earlier when we were preparing for this movie is that most everybody, they make a mistake. If I'm getting choked, they grab the wrist because you want to pull off what's attacking you. But unfortunately, it does nothing, right? If I'm grabbing somebody's wrist, he still have the power to choke me, and most likely he's gonna do it harder because he now knows you're trying to get away. So really what we're gonna do is a combination of moves, right? There's a bunch of ways to get out of this. This is the one I found most effective, I think. One, she's gonna drive a hand down hard as she can, typically in her off arm. She's not really necessarily trying to break that off her neck. She's trying to leave pressure, so she slaps down as hard as she can. The next hand, as soon as she does that, she comes through the middle, underneath the arm, and hits to the face. So when this move is actually taught, let's kind of give you a little background. They're teaching her thumb to go into the eyeball of John, the evil attacker. All right, so realistically, this is another one of these things in martial arts or self-defense that we have no way to practice that. I can't practice, or Nikki can't practice putting her thumb in John's eye. So if you don't practice something for real, the likelihood of that happening is probably not good, right? Most likely, her hand's just gonna hit him in the face. And again, this is resetting. His brain was, I'm choking her, and then she's like, bam, bam, hits him to the face, she's out. But then we're gonna follow it up with that framing technique that we do every time, and then she'll get away. So let's go ahead and go through it one more time. Boom, boom. Good, perfect. Good, and there's a couple different ways she can frame there, but you guys get the point, right? And she's immediately getting rid of the choke, and then immediately she's coming back in and coming to the knees, elbows, and getting away. So she went from terrible situation to she's out of the move, going forward, okay? Now another terrible spot that you never ever want to find yourself in is if somebody sneaks up from behind and chokes you, okay? So typically, the way somebody's gonna choke you is very close to what John's doing now, but they'll probably grab that hand. And really, his object right here might not necessarily be able to choke Nikki, but it also could be just drag her backwards, right? He could get her from behind. It's very hard to stop this when somebody's attacking your neck here. So what she wants to do, as soon as we do this, it's very close to that wrist grab she did earlier. She's gonna drop in base because she doesn't want to get pulled backwards. If her center of base goes backwards, it's gonna be hard for her to counter anything. So she immediately kind of settles in, drops her butt a little bit. Now this is the money move right here. She's gonna violently look in between her legs. Look in between her legs. There you go. That was it. Good job. That was perfect. Beautiful. So you can see again, same thing. John thought, I'm gonna sneak up behind her. I'm either gonna choke her and pull her away. Next thing you know, John's pulling himself up off the ground and Nikki's just walking to her car like normal. All right, let's see it again. Since he's choking, you might as well get out of it. There you go. Good, you guys got good at that. Good job. Awesome. Beautiful, good job. All right, good. So the next portion here that we want to do is it could be anywhere, against a wall, obviously, but I like to call these parking garage techniques. So, if you're going to your car late at night and somebody's going to get you, they want to trap you against the wall. One is it's hard to get away, right? And then it's easier for him especially to apply more pressure for chokes or even holding the collars or whatever. So, for example, let's do the first, let's do a double first. So if I'm talking about this double one first, it's the same thing as we said before. She can do the exact same move that we did away from the wall, and it will work. But there's another one here too. Let's say that she tried that, and because he has so much forward pressure, he's able to apply so much pressure to her neck that when she comes down, it's kind of not really working, right? Perfect, yeah. So What she'll do then is she's gonna reach behind her head with both hands and just find a finger. It doesn't matter. It's not both sides. As soon as she gets a hold of one, she's gonna twist that thing as hard as she can. That relieves the pressure on her throat. She's taking care of the choke, clearly, but he's still gonna attack her, right? So just take step one, took it apart, or took away from the choke, and then step two is gonna be frame, finish with their knees and elbows again, okay? And at this point too, as soon as you can, let's do it again, I want you to turn and get away from the wall. That's the most important thing. You're gonna take your situation and make it better. So attack, boom, throw a couple knees, and then turn away. Get away from the wall. Good, away. Yeah, that's perfect, that's perfect. This you're fine. Make sense there? Okay. So the next object here, another way somebody's gonna hold you against the wall, and I think almost more common than the two-handed choke is gonna be the one-handed choke. The reason is because now Evil John's got this arm over here for his weapon. He could be talking to her, he could say, give me your wallet, give me your purse. This is the pointing hand, this is the weird hand, right? So if we go to those simple principles we did at the beginning, that you're gonna go where the weakest point is, and that's gonna be the thumb, she should knock the hand towards me, right? Now, if John's doing his job, his evil job correctly, it's not gonna be that easy because he's gonna be pushing her against the wall, right? So as she knocks that forward, he's gonna fall forward, right? So what I like to do in this situation is as soon as she knocks the hand off, she's gonna look for a backwards elbow because he's gonna fall right into her. So go ahead and do that one quick. Hits, elbow, now she'll go straight into her frame, knee, 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 send him away. Perfect, and then she's off the wall. Good, perfect. All right, guys, so let's talk about what just happened there. Once we get to the ground, arguably this is probably the worst spot you want to be because you're helpless. So even if you have striking techniques, meaning punches and kicks and knees and elbows, if you're on your back on the ground, they essentially become useless. We're gonna cover two of the worst spots you can be on the ground. One is, first of all, is being on the ground is the worst. So we need to get up and we're gonna address it at the end. But also, having your attacker in between your legs. So let's say that he's trying to rape you. Unfortunately, it's an uncomfortable position, go ahead. So we're gonna be here. So usually when I'm teaching a seminar, I ask, what would you guys do or how do you get out of this? Nobody really has a good answer, right? Because, move a little bit closer, John, yeah. At this position here, like we call this guard in jiu-jitsu, just to make it a little bit less weird, right? This is a common jiu-jitsu move for everybody. And that's what she calls guard because she can control where John's at. She knows where you're at. If John actually gets to the side or on top of her, arguably it's worse than this. Here, he's usually gonna be trying to choke her, right? Do something like that or have a weapon. So it would seem simple. What I want to happen right now is I want Nikki to get her legs up, but if she just tries to pull her legs up and kick John in the face right now, she cannot. Multiple reasons. One, John's arm's in the way and he's so close that she can't get distance. So what she needs to do simply, and this is the part that nobody thinks of, is put her feet on the ground, scoot her butt away. We call it shrimping, okay? And then she'll stay on either side, stay on that left side there. And now she's gonna use that top leg to kick and kick and kick. And these are called up kicks. So anytime John tries to grab her, she's gonna kick. She's gonna use her feet. If she had to use them both as a bicycle, she would. Bam, 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 bam. There's not a whole lot she can do. And eventually she wants to get a kick so hard that she creates enough distance that she can get up. So she's gonna kick hard. And then even this situation, we call that standing up in base. It looks like nothing happened there, but it's very simple. Let's kind of cover this real quick. John, you just stand there for me. So when we stand up in base, if you notice what she's gonna do, she's gonna put one arm back, okay? And then the opposite leg goes on the ground and she sits through and goes backwards. Why this is important is, let me show you the wrong way to get up. So when we get up as humans, we lean forward. So if there's an attacker here, now he can elbow her, he can knee her, he can re-engage the whole situation. So even though she kicked him away and got away, now she's back in the bad spot again. So she can't have that. She needs to do this position again, one hand there, and she's going in a backwards motion that way. This arm can protect if she's getting attacked, and she's gonna go backwards. So now if John runs after her, she's created enough distance to get away. And a common thing in our gym, we stand up like this always, because the same situation could be if we just took the same thing away where John was attacking her on the ground and Nikki's at a park sitting right here reading a book, and the guy comes over and is like stalking her, she needs to get up in that same exact fashion. Good, it's perfect. Okay. What I would argue slightly worse than that position here is what we call mount. All right, so we can obviously see why this is a bad position, right? So what Nikki needs to do is look at her opponent, which is the attacker, as a four-legged table, right? So 2 legs are on the arms, 2 legs are down here. That's the 4-legged table. So she needs to take out 2 of those legs on whatever side she's gonna go on to flip him over. All right, so let's say that John is sitting up first, striking her. How is she gonna make him a 4-legged table? She's gonna bridge, bump him forward. As soon as that happens, now she's gonna attack whatever side. Go ahead, Nikki, show them what you would do. Good. Perfect. Good. So here's the lucky thing. Most girls are very strong in their legs, right? It doesn't matter. And his hips are over top of her hips. So when she bridges up like that, you notice her butt's off the ground, that's gonna force John to go forward, okay? Now, she doesn't wanna ruin this position. Now that he's forward, she's gotta trap an arm, trap the leg on the same time, same side. That makes him a 2-legged table. Now she uses that same bridging technique and this arm on this side to push as she bridges over. And that's gonna allow her to be on top. She can finish with strikes or get up, it doesn't matter. I want it to be to where John would attack Nikki and she doesn't think, all right, his arm's here, his leg's here, what do I do? By that time, John's probably moved on to different things. So it's gotta be immediately. So just remember, when we're practicing all these moves, any of these moves, just try to make it muscle memory, try to do as much as you can, so that way somebody comes up from me behind, grabs your hair, does this, anything, you just do it, you don't even know what you're doing, you're on autopilot and you're out in your way. So that's gonna be the most effective way to get out of this stuff. Thank you. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. I hope that you liked everything that you saw. Obviously, we're here downtown Charleston, Butch Hiles Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and self-defense. We have all kinds of classes. You can come take self-defense, Krav Maga, which is an Israeli form of self-defense, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is also self-defense, but also as a sport aspect, kickboxing for men and women, and a bunch of other classes. So we'd love to have you. We'd love spending time with you, and thank you for everything.